multiple hackathons, some in person and some virtual. But for this year, I am one of the hackathon chairs with the Women in Computing Sciences Club, also known as WICS. So I help members stay up to date with hackathons throughout the year and also help plan our annual hackathon in October.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm a third year majoring in computer science and economics in the college. Yeah, similar to Selena, I'm the other hackathon co-chair for Women in Computing Sciences. So this is my second year playing a hackathon, and besides that, I've been attending hackathons since my first year, and over the summer was my first time attending virtual hackathons. So you can definitely see the different experiences with that.
Great, thanks ladies. All right, just to start it off, one thing I think that can be helpful to understand is really why you might want to participate in a hackathon. So maybe, especially for those of you that started your first year, can you talk a little bit about why you wanted to get involved with hackathons?
So I actually started the first ever hackathon I went to was Who Hacks. I had no CS experience going into college, but thankfully Who Hacks was advertised, I think, around like February, and it happened in March. And because of the way hackathons work, you're not expected to have any knowledge. You're able to find teams from all over. I think my team was 2 Vanderbilt students and 2 UVA students. And then it also gave me a chance to kind of learn more about what's out there. So at hackathons, they'll have workshops for you to attend, they'll have mentors for you to talk to, and then on a purely, like, I guess fun note is they'll have a whole like career center booth. If you're in person, they'll have a whole booth of just free swag. So I've gotten cute little planters, several t-shirts, chargers, and things like that. And overall, it's just like this 2-day experience where you do a lot of puzzle solving through coding. You gain that quick team experience, but it's also just a fun time overall.
Yeah, and I can also, my first hackathon was also Who Hacks. I'm sure it's many people at UVA because it's Who Hacks, if you don't know, it's just UVA's big hackathon. So people come from different states and come compete at UVA in the school. And I actually, so I only went to the workshops, and then I volunteered because I knew I really wanted to get involved, but I didn't think that I knew how to code or that like, yeah, like it's beginner friendly. I would advise not to do, okay, there's 2 different things that you can do at hackathons. You can either go there to learn and gain knowledge through workshops, meet people through networking, and just like experience the community. And then you can also build a project, and you can do both. You can choose whichever pieces you want of a hackathon and make it your own experience. So I did what I could until I was comfortable to be like, oh, like now I want to make a product. I want to work with a team. I think this would be really cool. So definitely don't be afraid to attend, even if you think maybe like you won't compete, because that's not the only objective. Not most people aren't there for the prize isn't to win. As my last hackathon co-chair always said, is just go get free stuff. That's all you have to do. It's free, and everyone's giving out, all the companies will give out t-shirts and pens. It's kind of like a college fair, and you just collect everything you can get.
Yeah, and something that both Mara and Stephanie touched on was grabbing free stuff, but not only are you getting like actual free swag, a lot of the times that's that's coming from companies who are sponsoring those hackathons. So you'll see big people like Google, Wolfram, Sketch, and just other companies that you know the names of coming to the college students to network with you while you're learning, while you're coding and making big things. And also prizes are a big reason people enter hackathons. So if you do come with the intention of creating a project, you can get some really cool prizes. And I actually had some friends in high school who just went to all the college coding competitions around them and came home with like 4 or 5 different 3D printers.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add on, I think all the three girls like covered everything, but similar to Stephanie, the first hackathon that I went to, it was virtual. It was by MLH, which is Major League Hacking, our hackathon. And all I did was a workshop. Like I learned how to make my own website, just because I didn't think I had enough experience either. And that was still like a really good experience for me, just to like learn more about CS in general. So that's another reason to participate, is just to like learn the different fields that are out there.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And just talking about workshops, I haven't been to a workshop that wasn't helpful. If you see some like a GitHub workshop, build your first website. I took those workshops maybe like last year, my first year, and now I'm in a class where all I'm doing is is coding my own website. So just knowing previously how to make that, it's just helpful, even if it's just through a workshop and it's just 2 hours of your time. Like that knowledge can really help, and just like, oh, I knew that in the past. Like, let me remind myself what I learned.
Something that Rainbow asked a question in the chat that I want to mention. Do you need a strong foundation for a computer language to participate? Not really. So I've most recently, my in-person hackathon was back in March. I went to Athena Hacks. It's at USC and it's female centered. And going in, I honestly don't I didn't feel like I had a strong foundation like Java, C++, whatever. And for my product, a big part of it was just coming up with an idea that I could sell and prototyping it. So all I needed was basic HTML, CSS. I used a template online for the look. I used a little bit of JavaScript with like pre-written APIs. I just copied and pasted, and honestly like embedded some Microsoft tools that don't require like languages, but just requires you to know how to embed links into an HTML file. And for that project, I ended up winning the best Facebook community hack, Microsoft Hack for Good, and then one of the Google best use of cloud hacks. And that was done with very minimal coding. I think the hardest part was coming up with the idea and thinking about what we want to put on it.
It's really fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I could add on to that. It really does depend on what you want to accomplish at the hackathon. Over the summer, I participated in Rookie Hacks, which was hosted by Major League Hacking, and the idea of Rookie Hacks is you use a language you don't know at all. So someone who goes in not having a strong foundation in anything, like that's the perfect hackathon to go to. And having recently gone, like it was a really great experience, and you learn a lot in a very fast amount of time, so I would recommend it. It is a lot of spending time teaching it to yourself, going through the documentation. So I would say if you have a vision of something you want to build, then it would be best to try to prepare a little bit, like Mara said, learn some HTML or CSS just to have the basics down, so that you're really committing as much time as you can during the hackathon to build your project. Or if you have a great idea and you don't know how to code at all, a lot of hackathons have a team formation at the beginning, and you can pitch your idea and say, hi, I have this idea, I'd love to build it, not really sure how to implement it, and usually people would come and join and help you out.
Thank you. That would be great. Yeah, so we basically, it's just creativity and a little bit knowledge about some computer programming, right? Because I've only coded with C++ and also Java before. I've never touched Python, so I don't know whether that would affect my participation in the hackathon competitions. Yeah.
It depends on what you want to build. If you want to build like a web app, usually knowing Java could help you with JavaScript, and that would help you with the front end. And Python, there's a whole other framework that uses that instead. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about just knowing knowing one language is good enough. It's a good starting spot, good starting point to like start building your project.
Thanks.
What about putting together the teams? Do you have to have a team ready to go before you sign up, or is that something that happens kind of throughout the process?
So I've done both, but I would say you definitely need a team by the time like at least a couple hours into when hacking starts. Otherwise, you just won't have enough time. Um, but when I first did Who Hacks, I signed up, I registered, no idea how to get a team, who to ask, whatever. I actually went on their Facebook. I posted a little bit about myself. I responded to other people who posted about themselves and ended up finding the right fit. And then as for Athena Hacks, I along with the Girls Who Code vice president, we both flew to LA to attend. And so we originally planned to just do workshops, not create any products, but because of COVID, all the workshops were a lot of the workshops were canceled or sparse. So we figured while we were there, we may as well just code. Yeah. But that being said, at the event, there were people asking around to see who could they ask to join their team.
Yeah, my first hackathon was Pearl Hacks, and once I got there, there was about like 30 or yeah, about 30 minutes where everyone who didn't have a teammate and was looking for a team would like go to this one room and you just kind of mingle, talk to people, ask in person like what they're planning on doing, what experience they have, like what they hope to get out of it. Because like Mara said, like some teams like want to win certain prizes and other teams are just there, kind of want to go to workshops, maybe build something new. So yeah, there are many different ways to find a team. You definitely do not have to come in already knowing who you're going to work with.
Yeah, so like the hackathon that I went to over the summer, it was virtual. So what they did is like they made everyone join like a Discord channel, and then like there was just like a separate channel where people like posted like who they were, like what their project was, and like the qualifications that you needed, and then you could just like message them if you wanted to be a part of their team. So yeah, what everyone else said, you don't need like a team in the beginning.
What about the types of projects that that are done in hackathons? And I know there's a range, like a lot of them have themes, so the projects kind of relate to a particular theme, but how far along the idea pipeline do you need to be to get started?
Honestly, the fun of the first couple hours of a hackathon is like thinking through all the possible options and what could we be making, what should we be making, what can we make with our given qualifications, and what workshops are being offered that are going to help us along the way. So you don't need to come with an idea. That said, I know people who have like been thinking about this project for a year and all of a sudden it fits in with the theme of this hackathon, and then somebody else comes through and they want to add on this and that and the other. So you could have both ends of the spectrum, but really like a hackathon is for meeting with your team, brainstorming, thinking how are we going to use our time most effectively and the resources that are given most effectively to create this project and hopefully win something from it or just gain something from it.
And to add on to that, most hackathons, I would say, if not all, they don't let you start coding beforehand. So it really is a no pressure environment to start, because really, like, if you want to get a head start, it's really just thinking of an idea and having that planning process. But like coding wise, that's all going to happen during the hackathon, and during that time, your ideas might change. So yeah, it's really however you want to approach it.
What do you think the differences will be now for this year, now that the hackathons, at least the ones in the fall for sure, will be virtual? Any tips for how to just manage that as opposed to in person?
Yeah, so definitely virtual hackathons are very different from in person. And one thing that Girls Who Code is doing to help alleviate some of that pressure is we're going to have a jumpstart program a week before our hackathon to kind of help guide people, especially beginners, through the beginning of steps of like how to come up with ideas, what are some basic skills you can have, what are examples of small projects you can submit, things like that. But overall, I think the hardest thing about virtual workshops is finding people to work with. Because I think coding together doesn't need to be something done side by side. You can hop on a FaceTime call, you can work on GitHub together. But what I think is really hard is kind of putting that um, putting yourself out there and saying hi. So I think especially if you're doing a lot of major league hacking events, keep in mind that people doing those events are all students. They're all of different levels. And honestly, the overall feeling of going to a hackathon is people who have even been to like 10 or 20 or whatever hackathons, they're still very supportive of the beginners and they know exactly where they started. And a lot of people are willing to help teach you along the way.
Excellent. I love that. A couple of you have mentioned Major League Hacking and some other hackathons that you've participated in. How do people find, what are the best ways to find out about other non-UVA hackathons?
So I personally have found out of all my hackathons through Major League Hacking. They're all free student events. And there's also, I just looked at the website this morning, like literally one weekend, we'll have 4 different hackathons. And if you want, you can do more than one, but you typically cannot submit the same project to 2 hackathons. But I think there is a link sent in chat earlier too.
Yeah, like the way I found out about most hackathons is through Wix and Girls Who Code. People are always posting it like in their Slack or the group me or Discord. So I think that would be like the best way to like find out about different hackathons going on.
Yeah, I am signed up for the Major League Hacking like newsletter, so I get emails from them about some events and also just checking their website regularly. For Wix, we get emails from different colleges and different clubs about the events that they are hosting. So that's information that we're able to pass along to our members so that they're able to like go to different colleges. Like my first hackathon, I found out like through a Wix newsletter, people were pushing for us to like go to hackathons, and I went to UNC for Pearl Hacks. And like even already this year, we've gotten emails from like Columbia and Penn Apps, like different people reaching out. So like finding a good source of people who can keep you updated with like different events throughout the year is like a phenomenal thing to do if you're interested in going to multiple hackathons.
Yeah, and definitely one of the perks of the hackathons being virtual is that there's a lot more options that you can go to, and it's a lot less planning of, oh, I have to travel and factoring that in. Literally, like the only thing you have to remember is to eat and do your homework. So yeah, the virtual hackathons, they usually make it as easy as possible, and now you can go to hackathons all across the country and even the world. Yeah, so I'd definitely take advantage of that. Definitely subscribe to Major League Hacking. I always promote it in the Wix newsletter. They don't only have hackathons, they also have workshops that you can just drop in without signing up for hackathons. So yeah, it's a great resource to have.
Well, virtual hackathons have that same like 48-hour time period, or that I know it's kind of the short time of it is what makes it kind of a unique experience. Can you all talk about what that's like, and do you stay up the whole time working, or maybe just a little insight into what the whole, the nuts and bolts of it look like?
So initially, I did not go to hackathons to like win at all. I just went did my homework, attended the fun workshops, like learned how to make something new. So I would always like sleep my normal amount of time, but then there were people who would stay up with their whole team all night in order to get their project in tip-top shape for presentations. But that was not me, and there was like no pressure to do that. But it also depends on your team and your goal for the event.
I think I've had similar experience where I think part of the fun with my teams is we were kind of like we're not going to a hackathon to win. Our priority is just learning, and there's nothing wrong with going to a hackathon to win. But we focus more on the learning. So really, sometimes we would stay up until like 12 or later end 2, and then we'd wake back up like probably like a few hours before demo, so like 7 or 8. But overall, still get a pretty like good night's sleep, because honestly, like the way I work is I found that once it hits midnight, my productivity goes way down. So it's just something you need to communicate with your team. Um, but honestly, if you don't want to stay up late, you don't have to. There's no requirement.
Any other kind of tips or words of advice for people as they're kind of thinking about how to get started? Or maybe things you wish you had known when you were first starting out?
Yeah, I think this is something that has been touched on during this conversation, but the main thing that I want to say is just jump in, just try out a hackathon. I'm sure that now we've given you some of the resources like MLH, which is the Major League Hacking site that's company kind of thing that's sponsoring all these free hackathons for all of you guys. And now is such a great time where everything's virtual and you can join in on hackathons that are being hosted in right here in Virginia, but also ones that are being hosted in California. This is a great time to start utilizing those resources. And one thing that we haven't touched on so much is how many more resources are available to individual hackathons. Like Girls Who Code has noticed that people have been jumping on the opportunity to sponsor us. We've gotten a lot of big name companies that are coming to our hackathon and that want to talk to all you kids and network with everybody who comes and makes cool prizes or just uses their time wisely and decides to join a hackathon. So that's the number one thing, is just this is such a great time. Don't think that it's not. Push yourself, go in, try it out, see what it looks like, and make the most of your time there.
I definitely agree. And then also, I know we mentioned a lot about just kind of like, yes, jump in, but if you find that you're kind of a lot more shy and you prefer like previously established support, so you want like a team going in, feel free, like look out at different computing, hacking, whatever clubs, like Girls Who Code, which is open to everyone, not just women. We accept women, non-binary individuals, and like male allies. But then also like Wix and I think and I think there's like a student game developer club and things like that. There's so many different programming opportunities on grounds where whether or not you actually want to participate in them, you could still find them as a way to look at a community and see if they're willing to go join the hackathon with you. Yes, thank you, Emily. She posted a couple examples in the chat. Yeah.
Do you want to each kind of plug your events that you have coming up?
Sure. So as I said earlier, I'm with the Women in Computing Science Club on the Hackathon Committee. We are planning a 12-hour event. It's a hackathon on October 3rd from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. We are accepting all college students, and especially if you're a beginner, please come. We have like intro to Python workshops. We have a virtual reality workshop where companies coming and letting participants use their product for free. So you can come build an app using virtual reality, which is pretty cool. We have prizes and sponsors coming like from Facebook. And we have like fun activities and games planned throughout. We also, to like especially encourage beginners, we have beginner only prizes. So when you register, you can mark if you're a beginner, and then you'll be eligible for these prizes, just to sort of welcome you, so you don't feel as intimidated coming into this space. So yeah, and I can put the link to the website in the chat in just a second, but there's a registration button on the website if you have any more questions, also on the website. So yeah.
I can also put one in the chat. It's called Div Hacks, so it's Columbia's hackathon. It's basically just promoting like diversity in computer science, and there's no experience necessary for this one either. So I'll put the sign up for that in the chat as well.
Yeah, and then the main Girls Who Code hackathon that's happening in October 17th through 18th actually, is a 48-hour hackathon that's open to beginners and people of all different levels to come test out your coding experience. And don't be deceived by our Girls Who Code name. We are, as Mara said, open to women, non-binary individuals, and also just women allies. So you can identify as male. This is a common question we get, and still attend our hackathon. Just be open to us and have a great time. We have, again, some great sponsors coming, which is companies like Maxar, Google Cloud is sponsoring many of our events. We have Wolfram, Ernst & Young, the Data Science School here at UVA is sponsoring us, and we are an MLH official event. So that means we are free to all participants, and we will be listed on that MLH website that we sent out earlier.
I've also sent in the Discord. If you'd like to see more specific information as we go forward, if you go ahead and like join our Discord, we'll be sending announcements as well as our other events. So if you want to learn more about our Jumpstart program made exclusively for beginners the week prior to our hackathon, feel free. Also, if you're looking for some leadership opportunities, Girls Who Code is looking for people to join some committees and our exec board.
Are there any other questions that anyone has for our panel before we wrap up? Well, while you're thinking, I'll just add that from the career services perspective, we know employers love to see these kinds of experiences on your resume. So I would say it sounds like a win-win, something fun to do, you're learning something new, you're meeting great people, and you have something really interesting to talk about in an interview, and some great experience to put on your resume. So it really is a, like why wouldn't you do the hackathon? So, so I'll let you, if anyone has any other questions, you can put in the chat or just come off mute and ask. I think Aisha mentioned the Who Hacks Ideathon in the chat. That's one that's coming up quickly, which actually makes me think of one other question. Do you, if you see a hackathon, say you go on the Major League Hacking site and you see one that's coming up really quickly, if you don't have to have a team and you don't necessarily have to have an idea ahead of time, can you sign up for those kinds of things just last minute?
That's actually highly variable. Typically, you don't, but there are certain hackathons which maybe maybe the restrictions are lifted now that it's not in person because costs have gone down. But if it was in person, there's typically limits to hackathons, you know, based on fire code, price, things like that. Because even though the hackathon is free to you, it does cost money for the hackathon to run. But I think right now, if it gives you an option to register, you typically, I've been able to sign up for one like the Friday of, sometimes even like the Saturday of as well.
Yeah, so just wanted to mention the one I put in the chat, Ideathon. You have to register for that by September 16th at 11:59.
And someone asked in the chat, how many hackathons would you recommend per year?
I think hackathons are very variable on what you want. So if you want to go out, meet people, learn about new technologies, and create very like short-term projects that, you know, may blossom into long-term ones, then go to however many hackathons you can, you know, viably go to. Like, make sure you aren't getting burnt out. Like, do your homework on the weekends too. But like all things, it's just based off balance. I think some people will go to one every month and some people will go to one once a year. It just depends to you. And when in doubt, you can always just go to a hackathon and not submit anything and barely participate. Like, it's better to sign up and have the option than to not.
Especially right now when everything's virtual, super easy to like sign up, see if you have time to go, and if not, no pressure. You can kind of dip out whenever you need to.
Okay, last call for questions. Anything else you all want to add, the panelists? Anything that you want to add before we wrap up? All right. Well, I appreciate all of you for being here tonight. I know how busy you are with school and everything else that everyone has going on, and I really just commend you for being here, and hopefully you've gotten some enough information to get you really excited about participating in a hackathon. If I were a college student, I would definitely do it. But again, thank you to our panelists. We'll put together, I'll put together the resources that everyone mentioned and put in the chat to send out, along with the recording of the session for everyone. That might take a day or two to get out, but yeah, and if there are questions that people think of that you have later, you can email me, and or you can email directly to our panel members, whatever works best for everyone. All right. Well, thanks again, everyone, for coming, and I hope everyone's had a good start to this crazy year. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
See you.
Oh, thank you all so much. This was so good. I loved it. It was fun to do something. We rarely do something with just students, so this was great. Do you all, like I said, I'll get the recording to you so you can pass along to your members. I'll put together from the chat, just a list of those resources that that were mentioned. But anything else that you all need from me? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having
Yeah,
us.
thank you for organizing this.
Well, maybe if there's something that happens, if there's another little cluster of UVA related hackathons in the spring, we'll do it again. Do it again for the spring semester, and maybe we'll be in person. I don't know.
Hopefully, yeah.
Okay, you guys are awesome, and I really appreciate it. Have a great week.
Yeah, thank you for organizing this.
Thank you so much.
All right, see you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.